The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be? For me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So, tonight is going to be an interesting show. Going to have two really big discussions that are going to probably split the show in half. The first half of the show is just me sort of venting a little bit. I'm not, this isn't like a massive rant. I'm not going to go crazy because on one hand, I understand where people are coming from. I'm getting annoyed, I think is where I'm at with this now. I'm at the point now where I'm just sick and tired of, people saying things that I feel are easily put out there because of what we did last year. And I get it, show and prove, right? You did it once, do it again, that sort of thing. I get all of that, right? But there's these narratives that are starting to, surface and fester. And you know how it is. It's an echo chamber. You hear it here, you hear it there, and then people just start saying things and running with it. And it gets old after a while. And I'm one of those type of people where I like to get a sense of what people outside of our bubble are saying, because sometimes I know I'm very, very, very guilty. And I tell you guys this all the time. I'm very guilty of being in this bubble that we've curated, right? And we insulate ourselves and we're telling ourselves how good we're going to be or this or that. And we've had plenty of seasons, right, where we weren't really good, where it was us against the world. And we're convincing ourselves that Carson Wentz is going to take this team to 10, 11 wins. And we're convincing ourselves that Sam Howell is going to be the next coming of XYZ. And we're convincing ourselves that Chase Young and Montez Sweat are going to do this and they're going to do that. And, when you put yourself in that incubator, right? When you insulate yourself and all you're hearing is good things, good things, good things, you start to believe it. And then the rude awakening happens. Actual football takes place. And you realize your team sucks. That was our existence for many years. This is not that. And I feel like a lot of people, when it comes to the Commanders, are straddling the fence, right? They're trying to hedge their bets. And I'm here to say, pick a side. You can't stand on that side and stand on this side simultaneously. You got to pick a side. You don't get to say, oh, the Commanders aren't going to be as good as they were a season ago. They're not going to win 12 games and this, that, and the third, and they're going to have a regression this year, and then say out of the other side of your mouth, but they're going to win 10 or 11 games. Well, goddamn, which one is it? Can't say we're going to be, a worse team than we were last year. And they're not saying it in the sense that, oh, they won 12 games, and so they're going to win 11 or 10 this year, and they're going to be worse. No. The way they lead up to that, right, is, oh, yeah, no, they're going to step back. They're going to win 7 or 8 games this year, right? They're going to be somewhat of a disappointment, right? Last year, they probably overachieved. They arrived at the party early, all the shit that we've heard. And all of that is true, by the way, right? Who expected what we got last year in year one of a recalibration as we tried to find our north? Who was expecting that, right? So all of a sudden, you go and you do what we did last year. You exceed all expectations. You win 12 games for the first time since 1991. You win a playoff game for the first time since 2005. You win 2 road playoff games for the first time in franchise history. You go to the NFC Championship game for the first time since 1991. And oh shit, what just happened? We don't know, but they can't do it again because they weren't supposed to do it in the first place. That's the sense I'm getting, right? Is, oh, okay. Yeah, they caught lightning in the bottle. They caught teams napping. Teams will be ready for them this time around. And so all of this shit they say, and then after they're done saying all this shit that makes it seem like they've got us winning 7 or 8 games, oh, but they'll win 10 or 11 games. Which one is it, man? Like, they don't want to be wrong, right? You got to pick a side. Either you think and I'll respect you if you say, here's why I don't think the Commanders are going to be the team that they were last year. And then you give me reasons. I'm listening. I might not agree. I'm listening, though. My ears are open. And then we'll see how it plays out. But to say all of those things and then to turn around and then, oh, but they're going to win 10 or 11 games because you want to be right. Because if it doesn't go well, see, I told you that's what was going to happen. And then if it does go well, because 10 or 11 wins, I'm at the point where I'm just like, hey, just find a way to make the playoffs. We'll figure out the rest of that shit once we get there. You know, would I love to win the NFC East this year? You damn right. Would I love to see this team have home playoff games? Absolutely. But honestly, at the end of the day, right now, for where we are in our process, in our maturation, none of that really matters in the grand scheme of things, because last year we proved we can go on the road and go into your house and take your stuff in front of your face, and you're not going to do anything about it. The only team that said, hands off the merchandise was the Philadelphia Eagles. That's family business. We understand what has to take place. We see them twice a year in the regular season. We saw them a third time, and they took care of business. Hopefully, we'll be able to exact a measure of revenge this year when we see them. But we've proven that we can go into somebody's house, be disrespectful, do what we need to do, and come out victorious. We did that twice last year against 2 division-winning teams, including the number 1 seed. So I'm not afraid. I'm not worried about where we play, who we play, when we play. I just want to make sure that we play when the games start mattering in January and we're playing playoff football, right? So here are some things right now, and I'm going to kind of jump into a few things that right now are starting to really annoy me. These are things that I'm hearing. And what really triggered this, right? What really prompted this? And I don't know why this sent me over the edge. I guess because, you know, the cup gets to a certain level and you hear it. And I told you guys on the video I did last night, the reaction video to Summer Series Season 2, Episode 1 with Robert Littell. I told y'all that I was annoyed, obviously, at the very end of that video when he said that, oh, yeah, you know, the league is going to catch up to Jaden Daniels, and they've got film on him. The shit that we hear all the time, that echo chamber, right? So I was like, okay, I see what's going on here. But I you know, I took the L there, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna just let him say his thing, and you know, and keep it pushing, right? So I'm in the gym today, and I'm perusing through items to listen to as I'm finishing up my workout, and I see this little 6-minute video of Albert Breer and this guy, I think his name's Connor Orr. Both guys, I assume, work for Sports Illustrated. We know Albert Breer does. And it's like a 6-minute video. So what they effectively did, they probably have a podcast. They're talking, and the Commanders portion of the podcast was about 6 minutes and 40 seconds or so. So they chopped it up into pieces that they felt like were relevant, put them out as individual. You know how people repackage things, right? Which is good. That's what the internet is based off of. I used to do that. It's very tiresome and cumbersome and tedious. You know, one day maybe I'll be able to do that. I'll hire someone, because that's what people do. They hire people to chop those videos up and repackage them and put them out. And because people don't have long attention spans, which is why my videos aren't necessarily the soup of the day, right? It's not something, I told you I have a niche audience because I do long form content. But a lot of people do long form content. They just chop it up into pieces. So that particular piece ended up on the interweb. So I was like, oh, let me check it out, see what they're talking about, right? So turn it on, and Connor or this guy, I don't know this guy, Adam from Eve, is spouting off at the mouth about how the Commanders are ahead of schedule. Okay, duh, we know, right? And he doesn't think we're going to do what we did last year. Okay, I'm listening. That's fair, right? And he continues on by saying, I want Commanders fans to hear me say this. I don't want them to end up being like the Yankees fans. And I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? Like, they have to learn how to win again. And I'm like, okay. And you know, I find myself getting very annoyed listening to this clown. Like, okay, what is he talking about? We got to learn how to win again and all this bullshit. Like, last year, we were absolutely surprised, just like everyone else, about the success of this team. But what we aren't delusional about is our quarterback. Now, we can talk about other aspects of this team. You could talk about our head coach, who was excellent, and I think he's exactly what we need. And so glad that he's ours, right? We could talk about the lack of run defense. You could talk about question marks in the secondary. You can talk about this or that. But the one thing you can't right now, for us as a fan base, question is our quarterback. Now, if you want to say it's a small sample size, he's got to do it again. Okay, go right ahead. Knock yourself out. Again, I understand. But to sit here and compare us to the 2022 Giants, first of all, they won a playoff game, right? I get the premise. 2022 Giants came out of nowhere. They were supposed to stink. It was the first year of Brian Daboll. He shows up. He gets the most out of Daniel Jones. They win 9 games. They make it to the playoffs. They go on the road, and they beat the Minnesota Vikings, and then they lose the following week and get their brains bashed in by the Philadelphia Eagles. There are some parallels there. First-year head coach, overachieve, win a playoff game on the road, and then get destroyed by the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs. Sound familiar? But that's where the comparisons stop for me, okay? One, the 2022 Giants did what they did. The 2023 Giants still featured Daniel Jones at quarterback, okay? You're not talking about a guy that has a chance to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league and already feels like a top 5 quarterback and the best quarterback in the conference. You had Daniel Jones going into 2023, okay? That's number one. Number two, we made it to the NFC Championship game. We did not make it to the divisional round, okay? We made it to the championship game, all right? This team got exponentially better, okay, in 20, or from a roster standpoint going into the season. You went out and got Laramie Tunsil. You went out and got Deebo Samuel. You added really good pieces along the defensive line, on the offensive line. You created depth. You drafted some guys that you expect to come in here and help. This is not the same thing. So, yes, it did bother me to hear him talking about this fan base has to learn how to win again. And like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And I don't want them getting their hopes up. What are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do? Oh, last year was cool. Now this year, let's just hope we win 8 games. Let's just hope we win 8 games. What are we supposed to revert back to where we were last season? Go back to default settings? No, the expectations have been raised. The floor has been raised. So has the ceiling. Right now, I can't see any ceilings, right? Sky's the limit for this team. Yes, there's a lot of work to do. Yes, our roster is far from a finished product. I am aware of all of this. And maybe it is fool's gold. Maybe last year was somewhat of a mirage, and maybe we did show up a lot earlier than expected. And maybe this is like the 2020 Commanders when they won the division, right? Won the division and overachieved, winning 7 games. in a terrible NFC East, and it set unrealistic expectations for the following season in 2021. To me, this is nothing like that. Because again, just like the 2022 Giants going into 2023, they didn't have a quarterback, right? The 2021 Washington Commanders were going into the season with Ryan Fitzpatrick as their starting quarterback. It is not the same thing, right? And none of us thought that the roster got exponentially better, by the way, in 2021 from 2020, okay? None of us thought that the roster got exponentially better. So, to me, hearing that little 6-minute clip of Connor Orr and Albert Breer give us all these reasons as to why this team isn't going to do what they did last year. And then when it's all done, right, after they finish shitting on us for 5.5 minutes, then they go, oh, well, I think they're going to win 10, maybe 11 games. Oh, really? That's what you think, huh? So it got me to thinking, right? It got me to thinking. So here's what I'm tired of hearing, right? It got me to a point where I said, I'm tired of hearing certain things. Now, and again, I'm not vexed. I'm not at that point. I'm just annoyed. All right. First thing I'm tired of hearing, right? Sick and tired of being sick and tired of hearing that Jaden's going to regress and he's going to have a sophomore slump. Okay. And again, if someone were to come to me with that line and I asked them, okay, so you think he's going to regress and he's going to have a sophomore slump. Why? You can't tell me defensive coordinators now have film on him. That's another thing that I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of hearing, right? Oh, defensive coordinators have film on him now. Oh, really? So defensive coordinators didn't have film on him last year? So the Atlanta Falcons didn't have film on him? The Philadelphia Eagles didn't have film on him? The second time they played? Hell, I thought he played well against them the third time they played. He can't control guys fumbling the damn football. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who they had already played once that season, they didn't have 17 games that they could have watched to prepare for Jaden Daniels in the wild card weekend contest. The Detroit Lions had to have had some film, right? The same film exists, guys. The same film that the Detroit Lions had access to prior to that game exists now, and it existed then. You want to say, well, the Eagles gave out the blueprint. Oh, really? We'll see. We'll see if the Eagles gave out the blueprint or not. And can your defense duplicate what the Eagles defense did last year? Because there aren't many defenses in the league that can do what the Philadelphia Eagles defense of 2024 did, right? So this film that you speak of that exists, that's out there now, they have all this film. That shit existed last year. And oh, by the way, doesn't Jaden Daniels have film that he can access? Doesn't he have the ability to improve and get better? Is he just going to stay stagnant and be the exact same quarterback that he was last year? Make it make sense. So if you want to tell me that Jaden Daniels is going to regress and there's a sophomore slump coming, I need answers as to why. Right? I'm listening. My ears are open. I don't believe it for 1 second, and there's nothing you can say that's going to change my mind, but at least I'm open-minded and I'm listening. You're not going to change my mind because I think this kid has everything that it takes to be one of the best in the National Football League. He wants to be great. He's a cold-blooded assassin. He's a killer at the quarterback position. He gets it mentally. He gets it physically. He can do everything. He's been blessed with every single trait that you need to be successful at the highest of high levels, which is what fuels this fan base's excitement, but more importantly, it's confidence. When you got one of them at the quarterback position, you got one of them ones, you got a shot to win every single game that you play, even when the team as a whole is overmatched. You know what else I'm sick and tired of hearing? That the Commanders will have a target on their back this season. That was something that Albert Breer said in that video that I watched today. And I've heard that from other people, right? I mean, hell, even one of the beat reporters tried to come at DQ with us being now the hunted, and DQ cut his ass off mid-sentence. And no. We ain't doing that. I know where you're going, and we ain't doing that. You see, we the hunters, always the hunters, never the hunted. That's our mentality. We ain't win shit. The only team right now in the league that should be the hunted, that you can technically say is the hunted, is the Philadelphia Eagles, because they got what everybody else wants, and that's the chip. They got to start over at the bottom just like everybody else does, but they're dropping a banner. The first night of the season, they're dropping a banner. That's what everybody else wants. You in the AFC, you're chasing the Kansas City Chiefs. You in the NFC, you're chasing the Philadelphia Eagles. Those are the teams with the targets on their back. Now, if you want to say that, oh, they won't be sneaking up on anybody. They got 8 standalone games. I got a new name for that now. I got a new cool name that I learned just today. I was today years old when I learned this new phrase for standalone games. I'm going to use it from now on. I'm going to use it. I like it. So, yeah, if you want to say, okay, got to handle all of these standalone games. You got to handle, all these different times, that you're going to be playing games, short weeks, quick turnarounds, etc. Okay, yeah, I'm listening. That is an adjustment. We're not accustomed to that. I get it. But it wasn't this situation last year where I always feel like that's an easy thing to do, to dismiss someone or a team when they're having successes. Oh, you're not going to sneak up on anybody next year. By the time we were 7-2, I'm pretty sure we weren't sneaking up on anybody anymore. Right? When we lost 3 games in a row when we were 7-5, I don't feel like teams were like, well, we can sleep on the Commanders now. They're 7-5. I don't think that was what was happening. When we put up 8 million points on the Tennessee Titans in the first quarter of a game to go into our bye, I don't think the New Orleans Saints after the bye week was like, well, I don't want these Commanders to sneak up on us. I know the Philadelphia Eagles the following week, when they were up in the game 27-13, didn't say, well, those Commanders aren't going to sneak up on us now, are they? Not when Saquon Barkley was running roughshod over our damn defense like he always does. They had, 21 points, 14 points in the first 2 seconds of the game? 21 points in the first probably 15, 16 minutes of the game? Pretty sure the Eagles didn't feel like we were sneaking up on them. I don't think the Atlanta Falcons thought we were sneaking up on them when we were trailing them 17-7 at halftime. I don't feel like the Falcons thought we were sneaking up on them. Don't think we were sneaking up on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when they led 17-13 after 3 quarters. Don't think that we were sneaking up on them either. This notion that, oh, well, can't sneak up on anybody this year. I don't think we were sneaking up on anybody last year. Is there really a target on our back? I don't think so. Are teams going to try to beat us? Yeah, that's what teams do in the NFL. Now, I will say the standalone games, That is something that we're going to have to adjust to. I do think that is something that we're not accustomed to. Teams like Buffalo and teams like Kansas City and teams like Baltimore and Philadelphia, they're used to playing in these windows that are not, customary. The Cowboys don't deserve 8 primetime games or 8 standalone games. They don't deserve it, but they're used to it. They do it all the time. This is new territory for us. So yeah, okay, I get that, right? The tougher schedule thing. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of hearing about the schedule's going to be so daunting and tough. Guess what? It's a part of being a good team. It comes with the territory. It's par for the course. You start winning games, your schedule gets tougher. That is what comes with the territory. And our schedule, while it's tough, isn't that much tougher than everyone else's in the division. As a matter of fact, we have the least toughest schedule in the entire division. That includes the Giants. Obviously, they have to play the other 3 teams in the division, which makes their schedule inherently tougher. Yeah, we got to play the Chiefs. Yeah, we got to play the Broncos. Yeah, we got to play the Chargers. Yeah, we got to play the Packers. And yep, we got to play the Vikings and the Lions. Yeah, we got to do that. Guess what? Those mother effing teams got to play us too. We ain't some cakewalk. You ain't looking at the schedule. Dewan Payne said, hey, teams ain't looking at the schedule and circling us as doves no more, man. Mama, we made it. Guess what? Kansas City got to play us. Denver got to come to our house on a Sunday night. Those teams got to play us. Just like we got to play them. And we ain't no damn pushover. Yeah, the schedule's tougher. We going to find out what we made of. If we ain't ready for the show, we'll find out. But what we supposed to just crumble because the schedule's tougher this year? I can tell you this. We didn't play the Little Sisters of the Poor last year. We didn't play the Titans. Yeah, actually, we did. We did play the Titans, but we didn't play the Jags, and we didn't play the Colts. Right? We didn't play that division. We didn't get to stack up a bunch of dubs like the NFC North did last year and win this inordinate amount of games because we played 2 of the worst divisions in football a season ago. We didn't get to do that. Now, I will say we did play Carolina's division. Carolina, Tampa Bay, Atlanta, and New Orleans. That was a terrible division. So we did do that. But you can only play who they put in front of you. We still had to play the Ravens, the Steelers, the Bengals, and the Browns last year. Again, you go to the season before, and that was one of the best divisions in football, with 3 out of the 4 teams making it to the postseason. So again, when it's all said and done, yeah, the schedule's tougher. We'll be all right. We'll be all right. Then the last thing I'm tired of hearing, and I get it. I'm just sick and tired of hearing it. That's all, right? Sick and tired of being sick and tired of hearing that we can't replicate the success we had in close games last year. I get it. Jaden Daniels was spectacular in 1-score games. If you gave him the football late in the ball game, you can go ahead, pack your shit up, and go because it's over. Most touchdown passes to take the lead in the 4th quarter with less than 30 seconds or in overtime in the league, right? Did that as a rookie. Commanders were outstanding in close games last season. Hell, the final 5 games of the season were all won, in walk-off fashion, if I'm not mistaken. Right? The final 5 games of the regular season or 4 games of the regular season, and in the first game of the playoffs. New Orleans walk-off. Obviously, that wasn't on offense, but it was a walk-off. You had the Eagles walk-off offensively, Falcons walk-off offensively, Cowboys walk-off offensively, but that was with Mariota. Buccaneers walk-off in the playoffs offensively with the field goal. So there's all of those games. There's the second Giants game where he pretty much had to put them to sleep because the defense couldn't do the job. There's the obvious, Washington walk-off, aka Bear Trap, aka Noah's Ark against the Chicago Bears. So there were all these opportunities that he was able to come up huge for the Commanders. And in his very first, epic performance, the Bengals game, which put him on the national stage. And then the week before that, his first career, winning drive against the New York Giants. I mean, he was cerebral in those moments. Maybe he's just like that. You ever thought about that? Maybe Jaden Daniels is just like that. Like Mahomes in those situations, he's just like that. Joe Burrow in those, he's just like that in those situations. Maybe he's just one of those ones, right? Where in those situations, when your best is required, where there's the smallest and slightest margin for error, and you have to be at your absolute best, and nothing else will do. Maybe he's that guy. You ever think about that? You don't want to live in those situations. You don't want to live in these one-score games and these games where you're going to have to pull it out late and you're going to have to score with less than 20 seconds to go. You don't want to be in those positions often. You don't want to have to drive the length of the field like they had to do against Dallas, 86 yards. You don't want to have to throw a perfect dot and prevent defense so that your guy can run after the catch for a touchdown. You don't want to have to do that. But if you're put in that position, maybe he's made to do that. Maybe he's just one of them ones. And maybe when we're in close games, just like the Chiefs often find themselves in close games, maybe we'll find ourselves more times than not on the right side of those close games because we got 5. Did that ever occur to the people that say can't replicate that success in close games? Odds are that you don't want to put yourself in that position because you're not going to be able to do it. I'm aware. I don't want us to have to go for it on 4th down, 18 times or whatever the number, or 21 times and whatever the number was last year. That's not sustainable to be able to go for it that many times and get it and convert at the clip that we did last year. That's not something you want to find yourself having to do. But it's good to know that if you do need to do that, you got a guy that's capable. Same thing with close games. So those are things that I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of hearing. All right. But I digress. Let's get into some of the things that right now I think the Commanders have to improve in 2025 to have the type of season that we envision them having, right? So I want to start first with this sort of an outline or preview, if you will, on Fox Sports. I think they did a really good job of kind of encapsulating 2024 and then kind of giving you a sneak peek behind the curtain of 2025 for the Washington Commanders. So I want to kind of go through this real quick with you. So right now, the Commanders win total over under is at what, 9.5. So that's a good number, obviously, because for us last year, the number was 6.5. Vegas sees us as a threat to win double-digit games for the second consecutive year in a row. As we all know, this is something that the Commanders have not done, once again, since 91-92, right? We have not won double-digit games in back-to-back seasons. The last time we had back-to-back winning seasons was 2015 and 2016, but I almost don't like counting that because technically we went 8-7-1 the following year in 2016, but it's still over 500. So this is a big one, right? I told you this is the last bit of PTSD, or as the person said we should call it, PDSD, post Dan Snyder syndrome, right? Or disorder, right? PDSD, post Dan Snyder disorder. This is the last bit of PTSD that I have left. Is can we do it again 2 years in a row, make the postseason, something we have not done, once again, since 91-92, right? Make the postseason 2 years in a row. So this is a good start, right? This number here from Vegas, right? So you move on to the synopsis of the 2024 season for the Commanders. Commanders were 12-5. And were good enough to make it to the playoffs last year. They went as far as the conference championship round, as we know. Washington posted a 7-2 record at home. It was 5-3 away from the friendly confines of Northwest Stadium. So that's how you take care of home, right? Because I've always said, if you just, it used to be, 16 games, 8 on the road, 8 at home. And I used to always say, and this was the easy, low-hanging fruit math. Go 6-2 at home, 4 and split on the road, 4-4 on the road. Boom, you got 10 wins. You're probably going to go to the playoffs when it was a 16-game slate. Things have changed now. There are 17 games. It's alternating in terms of how many home games you're going to have. Last year, the NFC had the 9. This year, the NFC has 8 home games. So last year, we had 9. We went 7-2. So you took care of business at the crib. And you put yourself in a position where you don't have to be great on the road, but 5-3 on the road is really good, right? So not only were you really good at home and you protected the house, which is important, something that we haven't really done over the life of the Snyder era, but we were road warriors last year. And that was never more personified than in the postseason when we went on the road and beat both Tampa Bay and Detroit, right? The Commanders collected 9 wins as favorites in 11 games and 3 wins as underdogs in 6 games. So the Commanders were very good at taking care of business against teams they were supposed to beat last year as favorites. And then when they weren't favorites going into the game 6 times, they still were able to win 3 of those games. So my guess would be, I'm trying to guess what those 3 games would have been. Cincinnati on the road, week 3. Arizona on the road the following week. I know we were underdogs in that game. It wasn't a very long line. It was a very short line, but we were still underdogs there. I remember talking about how disrespectful I thought it was. What we had done the week before, we had a better record than Arizona. They were 1-2. We were 2-1, but they did come off of a really tough loss to Detroit the week before. So, I think Vegas saw that as, oh, okay. The Bengals are 0-3. The Cardinals just took the Lions to the limit and they made them the favorites. And then I think the week 16 game against Philadelphia was probably the other game that we were, underdogs in that we won. So took care of business in the games that we were supposed to. And then as underdogs, found ways to take care of business as well. Washington was 9-3 in the NFC, which is very important because the bulk of your games are going to come against conference opponents. Last year, we took care of business in the division. We could have been better. Obviously, if we want to win the division, you're going to have to find ways to be better in situations that present themselves. We'll talk more about that here in a second, but we went 4-2. And if Dallas is completely healthy and they're good this year, you'll take a split with them. If Philadelphia, you'll take a split with them. But you got to take care of the Giants. We'll talk about that in a second. But we were 4-2 in the NFC East, which was big. But if we wanted to win the division last year, the Cowboys sucked and the Giants sucked. We needed to sweep both of those teams, and we didn't. And that was really the difference between us and Philadelphia and the Eagles ultimately winning the division. Had we applied more pressure to Philadelphia, had we put that late season pressure on them, who knows what would have happened. But losing that first game to Dallas kind of put them in the driver's seat in the division. Got to take care of business in the division and obviously in the conference. Us taking care of New Orleans, barely, but taking care of them nonetheless. That game against Atlanta was massive, right? Finding a way to beat the Falcons there in overtime. Those are huge games, right? Got to win the ones you're supposed to win. Beating Carolina, beating all those teams in the conference. Huge. Huge. You have to take care of business there, because if we don't win the division and you don't get the automatic bid, then the first thing that they're going to go to is your conference record, right? Unless you have, head-to-head matchup or games against common opponents. But one of the first things they're going to start looking at is your conference record. Commanders picked up 8 wins in 1 possession games and 12 opportunities, and 4 wins in 5 games decided by 3 points or less. So again, it just shows the clutch gene that this team had last year, specifically Jaden Daniels and what he was able to do. 8 wins in 1 possession games. We played a lot of close games. We were feast or famine, right? Either we were blowing teams out, because 12 games were 1 possession, and that's the NFL though. That's not just to us, right? There's a fine line between winning and losing in the National Football League. We talk about it all the time. And it's a turnover here, it's a play made there, it's a missed opportunity here. That is the difference between winning and losing in the National Football League. So we made winning plays, right? We talk about winning time moments. This team talks about winning time moments and being prepared for those winning time moments and seizing those opportunities. Well, we did that last year. We have to do it again, because we're probably going to find ourselves in a number of 1 possession games again this season, right? And then winning 4 out of 5 games that were decided by 3 points or fewer. I mean, it's massive, right? One of our playoff games was decided by 3 points or fewer. You have to find ways to win those close games. And that's why some of the things that I'm going to talk about here and things that we must improve is so vital, right? Washington hit the gridiron for 3 island games last season, posting a 2-1 record. Now you ask yourself, what are island games? That's going to be my new terminology for standalone / primetime games, because it's all encompassing, right? Island games. I love it. I love it. Island games are games where there's no other game on. You're the only game being nationally televised. You're not competing against any other game on the docket. It's just you. Standalone, right? I like island better. I'm going to run with it. I'm stealing it and I'm adopting it and I'm making it my own. So we got 8 island games this season. 8 island games. We were 2-1 last year, right? In our 3 island games during the regular season. You beat Cincinnati, you beat Atlanta, and then you lost to Philadelphia on a Thursday night. So those were your 3 island games last season. 2-1. We're going to have to be a lot better than 2-1. I mean, well, we got 8 of them this year. So we're going to have to, you probably need to be no worse than 5-3 in those games. You really want to be no worse than 6-2, honestly speaking. You got to take care of business in those games that are nationally televised and island games, right? In games where they were favored by more than 7 points last season, the Commanders won a couple of them and had a 2-1 record. They went 7-1 when favored by 7 points or fewer. So again, which was highlighted earlier, we won 9 games out of 11 when we were favored last season. So just keep taking care of business against teams you're supposed to beat. That's what that says. That's what that says. So now we get to the Commanders' strength of schedule. This is something that we've heard about a ton, right? A lot of people keep talking about how tough the Commanders' schedule is. We're going to take a look at that schedule briefly tonight. Based on their opponents' combined win total last year, 159 games were won by their opponents last season. The Commanders have the 8th hardest schedule in the NFL. We already knew that, right? But when you rank it amongst the rest of the NFC East, it's the least toughest schedule. I think the Giants have the toughest schedule in the league, first or second, something along those lines. The Cowboys have like I want to say 4th toughest, and the Eagles have like the 5th or 6th. And then we have the 8th toughest schedule in the league. So look, we're not looking for any excuses. Nobody in our division is looking for any excuses. You want to win, you want to be the best, you want to be the man, you got to beat the man, right? Based on our predictions. So this is strictly conjecture right here. Like they're predicting what they think teams are going to do. There's no validity to this right here. Based on our predictions, the Commanders will be facing the 23rd ranked schedule in terms of toughness. They can't know that, right? They're trying to predict what teams will and won't be good. We don't know. That's one of the beauties of the NFL. Unlike other sports where the Rockies are going to suck every year in baseball. The Nats are going to suck almost every year in baseball. These are facts, right? There's certain teams where you just look at them before the season starts, you're like, okay, we know they're going to stink. You can do that in the NFL too, but it's a lot more. The parity in the NFL exists a lot more than in other sports because you're not playing series, right? And you're not playing a bunch of teams multiple times over, right? So you just got to beat a team once. Like if you suck in baseball and you're playing a team in a 4-game series and they beat you 3 times out of 4, well, you just got 4. You just got 3 losses in the span of 4 days, right? In the next series, you might lose 2 out of 3 of those. And you keep stacking those series losses up. Next thing you know, you look up and you're 14 games under 500, right? In the NFL, you just got to be the better team that one day, that one time. That's it. So hard to say what's going to happen, right? Washington will face the 13th ranked schedule in the league based on its opponent's projected win total this year, 148. So again, this is conjecture, right? They're trying to predict what the opponents that they have on their schedule will do from a record standpoint. Last year, we had a combined 159 wins on our schedule. They're trying to say that this year, our schedule will have 11 wins less on it. I find that hard to believe because the 2 divisions that we're playing are, to me, better than the 2 divisions we played a season ago. But again, we'll see what happens. The Commanders will have 9 games scheduled against teams that had winning records in 2024, including 5 teams that had 12 or more wins and 4 that had less than 6 wins a season ago. So we're playing 9 games against teams that had winning records a season ago and 5 teams that had 12 or more wins. So obviously the Kansas City Chiefs had more than that last year. The Detroit Lions had more than that. The Minnesota Vikings had more than that. The Philadelphia Eagles had more than that. That's 4. There's 1 more on the schedule that had 12 or more wins. They had to be an AFC team, is my guess. Because I think all the 12 or more win teams in the NFC were just the Commanders, the Eagles, the Vikings, and the Lions. Lions. I don't think I said the Lions. Vikings, Lions. I think I did say the Lions. Vikings, Lions, Chiefs, Eagles. Wonder who that fifth team is. I don't think the Chargers had 12 wins. I don't think they had 12 wins. I guess we'll find out when we look at the schedule a little bit later on. And then 4 teams with less than 6 wins last year. So the Giants clearly had less than 6 wins. So that's one. The Bears had less than 6 wins. The Packers had 12 wins. That's the last team. That just jogged my memory because the Packers finished, I believe, with the same record that we had last year, 12-5. So the Packers would be the 5th and final team that had 12 or more wins last season. So the Bears had less than 6 wins. The Giants had less than 6 wins. The Raiders probably had 6 or less wins, is my guess. How many did they say we had? 4. So that's 3. Raiders, Giants, Bears, and I'd have to see the schedule to figure out who the last team is that had 6 or less wins last year. While Washington was victorious in 7 games last season when set as a favorite of 7 points or fewer, 7-1, the squad went 2-1 when favored by 7.5 points or more, which they already talked about before. So offseason additions and losses. These are your draftees here: Josh Connolly Jr., Trey Amos, Jalen Lane, Kane Madrano, and Ja'Cory Merritt. Of the 5 guys that you see before you, only Trey Amos is still not under contract. I don't believe he's signed his contract yet. I could be wrong about that. I don't think he signed his contract yet. Let me see. Let me double check on that. I think we got all of our guys. I think all of our guys might have signed. Let me check. Let's check. Yep, he did sign his contract. Yep. So all of our guys have signed their contract. All right. So these are the offseason additions via free agency. Place kicker Matt Gay, Deebo Samuel via trade, Jacob Martin, Eddie Goldman, Will Harris, Dietrich Wise Jr., Javon Kinlaw, Jonathan Jones, and obviously they also acquired via trade Laramie Tunzel, right, which is not listed here. Offseason losses: Olamide Zaccheaus, De'Ami Brown, Derek Forrest, Jonathan Allen, Fedarian Mathis. I think they let him go during the season last year. Mikael Walker, Dante Fowler Jr., Benjamin St. Juste, and Jeremy Chin. Of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys, the biggest impacts or losses to be felt probably is going to be Dante Fowler Jr. and Jeremy Chin. So those are the 2 guys that, and I don't want to discount Jonathan Allen and what he has meant to the Commanders, but he barely played. I mean, it felt like he rarely played last year because of the injury. And so that was a good synopsis of where we are right now. So now what I want to do is I want to go to the 7 things. You guys know how I am. I like to create lists when I'm feeling listy. And when I'm feeling listy, I like to create lists that are comprised of 7 items. This is no different. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive into the 7 things I feel like the Commanders must improve in order to maximize the 2025 season. All right. So number 7, kicking off number 7, The first thing that I think they have to improve is place kicking. All right. This is number 7 on my list, place kicking. So what you see in front of you is a list of the Commanders' place kickers from a season ago. And this is disgusting, right? You got 4 different guys that kicked for you in the regular season. That's not okay, right? Now, individually, these guys weren't terrible, but as a collective, this isn't good enough, right? Seibert by himself, 90%, you'll take that. He only missed 3 kicks. The problem with Austin Seibert is he was scary. Even on some of his makes, you were like, oh my God. Like, he didn't consistently strike the ball well. You couldn't feel confident with Austin Seibert, even though he made a 55-yard kick, which I didn't think he was capable of making, right? As you can see, his long for the season was 55. That was the long on the season for the Commanders. But 27 of 30 isn't bad, but he missed 2 extra points, both of which were in the Dallas game. He barely made an extra point against Baltimore where he kicked the ball, kicked it on the fat part of the ball, and it swerved in through the uprights. He did that again on another field goal attempt, and actually, I think he missed that one. So he was the hero in week 2 when he showed up against the Giants, but he was the GOAT against the Cowboys. And so he was solid throughout the year, but unfortunately, he didn't get it done, right? He had a rough game against Baltimore. I think 2 of his misses came in that game. One for sure, right before the half. Zane Gonzalez took over late in the season for him. Obviously, he had, some issues. Barely made the field goal against Tampa Bay, which should have been a chip shot. His ball, to me, always just kept tailing to the right. He always liked to line the ball up on the left hash. So when he would kick it, his just seemed to have a natural draw towards the right. He scares the shit out of me. He missed the kick against the Lions, which, again, I was never comfortable, even though we were up 14. I would have been a lot more comfortable had he made the kick, put us up 17 with less than 4 minutes to go. The game would have been effectively over. He missed. It left the door slightly ajar. I was not happy about that. But Zane Gonzalez was solid, but he wasn't allowed to come back, right? Too inconsistent. You couldn't trust him. And 5 of 7 isn't very good, right? You only kick 7, field goals. I need you to make all 7 of those. Unless you're kicking some, 55-yard bombs or something, you're not allowed to miss. As you can see, he had 1 attempt from 50 yards away or more, and he missed, right? And then he missed a 40 to 49-yarder as well, which I call the money distance. Greg Joseph was there for a week. He was 2 of 3. Like, I think that was the Saints game that he came in there and kicked, and he missed a kick. Like, you can't be missing a kick your first game in. And, we almost lost that game. And if we would have lost that game, we would have been ready with pitchforks and torches for Greg Joseph. And then Cade York, as we know, traded for him right before the season started, during training camp in the preseason, and we ended up getting our pick back, right? Went 0 of 2 in week 1 against Tampa, and they moved on from his ass with the swiftness. Good thing they did, because we didn't need to go through that experiment with him. He actually, I think, turned around and had a solid season. I think he went to the Houston and ended up with the Texans while Kamimi Fairbairn was hurt, but not our problem. The net of this is our kickers last season went 34 of 42. That's 81%. That's not good enough. It's not good enough. And where we were hurt the most, you were perfect from 20 to 29. You were perfect from 30 to 39. Great. You're supposed to make those kicks. 40 to 49 is what I call the money distance, right? Because not only is that where the bulk of your kicks are going to come from, those are the toughest kicks. Like, you're going to consistently kick a 42, a 45, a 48-yard field goal. We're not going to ask you to kick 55 and 53-yard field goals. And frankly, our offense isn't going to put you in a position very often, or at least we hope they don't. They didn't last year, where you're going to be kicking a bunch of 50-plus yard field goals, right? 40 to 49 is where you're going to be kicking the bulk of your field goals. Because really, I expect anything from 19 to 39, I expect you to make it. So the ones that are tough, where the wind could get a hold of it and push it, is from 40 to 49. That's where you make your money. We were 13 to 15, which isn't terrible. But the 2 of 8 really hurt us from 50 plus. And in this day and age in the NFL, where everyone's got a massive leg and every kicker is capable of hitting it from 55, 56, to be that bad from 50 plus, which Matt Gay was not great last year from 50 plus, but the year before, he was money from 50 plus. Matt Gay didn't miss a single kick under 50, and he missed most of his kicks from 50 last year. So we need an upgrade here. We need an upgrade here, right? The kicking wasn't bad last year, right? It just wasn't ideal. Again, 6 of the kicks we missed last year out of the 8 were from 50 plus. So it wasn't a bad year, like I said. We didn't lose games because of field goal kicking. We didn't lose games because of field goal kicking. We could have. We could have lost the Saints game because of field goal kicking. I think there was another game in there that came down to field goals. Obviously, the Dallas game is the one that sticks out like a sore thumb. But I'm trying to think, were there any other games that were super close that field goals played a part in that we may have missed one? I know the Baltimore game, there was a missed kick in there right before the half, but not sure if there was any other ones. But whatever the case may be, we just need to be better in the kicking game, because this season is going to come down to kicking, right? I just talked about how many close games we played last year. And this graphic underneath the place kickers, this graphic down here with these field goal percentages from last year shows the teams with the worst field goal percentages in 2024, right? The Browns had the worst field goal percentage of any team in the league last year at under 67%, which is grotesque, right? I think the Browns might have actually drafted a kicker in like the 4th or 5th round. You see why, right? Makes sense. They were awful last year. The Falcons, barely over 70%, right? Jets, just a tick over 71%. The Ravens, remember, Justin Tucker had a meltdown. He's no longer a Baltimore Raven. His career might be over. We'll see. Bengals, 75%, right? Almost 76. 49ers, 77, almost 77%. Again, all of this is grotesque. You should be nowhere close to the 70s. Really, 85% is the baseline where you should start when you're talking about field goal percentage for an entire season. Anything below 85 is a disaster. You're not shooting for 85, you're shooting for 90, right? Anything above, to me, anything 88% and above, you've had a tremendous year kicking the football. You hit the 90s and you had an excellent season kicking the football, especially if it's on high volume, right? To me, high volume is anything, 25 or more kicks. That's volume for me. Well, as you can see, the Commanders were the 9th worst field goal percentage team in the league last season at 81%. All right. Now, what I wanted to illustrate with this graphic is that look how many teams in this the worst 9 field goal percentage teams, how many of them made the postseason last year? Again, there's a fine line between winning and losing in the NFL. More games are lost than they are won in this league. One of the ways you can lose a game is by not taking advantage of opportunities to put points on the scoreboard. Browns, non-playoff team. Falcons, non-playoff team. Jets, non-playoff team. Ravens, one of the few that was able to circumvent not having a successful year kicking the football. They lost the game to the Eagles because Justin Tucker couldn't make field goals, right? Bengals, non-playoff team. 49ers, non-playoff team. Eagles won the Super Bowl. Most of their misses came from their kicker missing from 50. Remember, he couldn't make a kick past 50 yards. Jake Elliott. Like before this past season, Jake Elliott was money from 50 yards away and further. He hit some clutch field goals for the Eagles, 58 and 59 and all kinds of shit. Last year, he couldn't hit the backside of a barn from 50 plus. That's why their number is so low. But they were able to circumvent that, right? Patriots, non-playoff team, and the Commanders. So of these 9 teams, only 3 of them, including the Commanders, made the postseason. Ravens, Eagles, Commanders, with a sub 81% field goal percentage. That's no way to live. That's why you're keeping company of teams that you don't want to be around. Hence, we need to be better in the kicking department this upcoming season. So that was number 7. We need to be better. We need to improve our kicking game. Number 6, rush offense by running backs, right? Rush offense by running backs. So it's no secret that we've been very frustrated with the lack of effectiveness of our running backs. We haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher since Antonio Gibson did it in his rookie season, or was it his second year in the league? 2021, I believe. He rushed for 1,000 yards in his second season. And that was not an impressive 1,000 yards in 2021 either. That said, Brian Robinson Jr. has never rushed for 1,000 yards and was not even our leading rusher last year. So this list that you see at the very top in white are the rush totals for the Commanders last year. Jaden Daniels was our leading rusher. We all know this, with 891 yards. He can't be our leading rusher. That's not okay. It's not okay, right? Brian Robinson Jr. rushed for just under 800 yards last season. And then Eckler, 367, McNichols, 261, Rodriguez, 173, so forth and so forth, right? So as a team, we rushed for 2,619 yards. What you see below in the black are rush yards for teams that, let me make this just slightly smaller so we can get all these teams in here. So what you see below here are the totals for the teams in the league just from their running backs. No contributions from receivers on jet sweeps or, running back, a receiver, taking a toss out of the backfield, no quarterback runs. What you see are raw running back rush totals from 2024. Okay. You look all the way at the bottom at 18th overall. The Commanders have 1,600 yards total from their running backs. All right. So keep in mind that the Raiders here have the least amount of rush yards from running backs a season ago. So the 18th position is the 18th most or least yards. So you flip it upside down. The Commanders are roughly 15th in the NFL in rush yards by their running backs, which isn't terrible, but it's not good enough. Not when your quarterback has over half this total, right? Jaden Daniels by himself had 891 yards. The running backs combined had 1,600 yards. That's not okay. It's not okay. Now, when you couple in Jaden Daniels' rush totals with this number, the Commanders are the 4th best rush offense in football. You throw in Marcus Mariota's 92 yards and De'Ami Brown's yardage, and all of a sudden you got a little something going. But I wanted to illustrate this again to talk about the fact that we need more from our running backs. We need more from our running backs. And just like I just showed you before, you don't want to keep this type of company. Raiders, non-playoff team. Bears, non-playoff team. Browns, non-playoff team. Giants, non-playoff team. Chiefs, outlier, right? They had injuries to their running back position for much of the year. They're an outlier, right? Seahawks, non-playoff team. Bengals, non-playoff team. Saints, non-playoff team. Jets, non-playoff team. Broncos, they were trying to figure it out last year. They had some injuries to the running back position. That's why they went out and made the moves that they did, signing J.K. Dobbins and drafting the UCF running back this past year in the draft. So they've made some alterations to their running game because it wasn't good enough from the running back position. But that was a playoff team. Cowboys, non-playoff team. Patriots, non-playoff team. Jags, non-playoff team. Titans, non-playoff team. Dolphins, non-playoff team. Chargers made it to the postseason, but J.K. Dobbins' injury really stagnated their run game. When he was healthy, they were leading the league in rushing the first 5 or 6 weeks. Dobbins goes down, their run game took a nosedive. That's why they're on this list. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here, right? And then Panthers, non-playoff team. Commanders made the postseason, right? But again, this is not company that you want to keep. So within this group here of 18 teams, only 4 of them made the playoffs with 1,600 yards or less from their running backs. Again, you don't want to be in this group next year. You do not want 1,600 yards or less. And you don't want to be having discussions about non-playoff teams and your proximity to them on the ground with your running backs totals as a whole. We need to improve the run game if you are the Commanders, right? Then the next thing that I want to get to, number 5, is we got to win games against good teams. This is something that we have to improve in 2025. Last year, we struggled in the regular season against quality opponents. And I think that's a bit harsh. Struggled is a bit harsh. We played the Bucs in week 1. They didn't have a winning record at the time, but they were a playoff team from the year before. And that was week 1. You know, I almost want to throw that game out, right? But you have to count it, right? That was a good team. Lost that game, right? You played the Baltimore Ravens, lost that game. So you're 0-2, right? You played the Chicago Bears. They were 4-2 at the time. You beat them, so that's 1-2. You then played the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you lost that game. You're 1-3 against teams with winning records, or at the time the Bucs were 0-0, but they were a good football team, so we're going to count them. So you were 1-3 in those games. Then you lose to the Eagles. You're 1-4. Then you beat the Eagles the second time. So you're 2-4. Then you beat the Falcons, who had a winning record. So you're 3-4 to finish out the regular season, right? So you were 3-4 against teams that either were a playoff team the year before or had a winning record. when you played them. That's not good enough, right? And there are plenty more of those on the schedule this year than they were last year, or we assume they're going to be plenty more of them, meaning good teams. You expect Green Bay to be good. You expect Detroit to be good. You expect Philadelphia to be good. That's twice you're going to see them. You expect Dallas to be better. That's another team that you have to see twice. You expect them to be much better than they were a season ago. You expect Kansas City to be good. You expect Denver to be good. You expect the Chargers to be good. All right. So that's 8 teams, right? Or 6 teams, but over the span of 8 games when you double up on Dallas and Philadelphia, right? That you're going to have to play, and you're going to have to find a way to win against quality opponents. So we're going to have to be better in those situations. And I have no doubts that we can be. That was evident by going to Tampa Bay and beating them in the playoffs and then doing the same against Detroit. But we're going to have to come out of the gates, ready for those opportunities. And again, like we did last year, you want to continue to improve as the season wears on, and you want to be playing your best football as the season, you hit, the latter stages of the season, like we were last year. We were playing some of our, well, I don't say playing some of our best football, but we were finding ways to win, and we were hitting our stride as the season was coming to a close, right? So got to find a way to beat good teams this season, because there are going to be plenty of them on the schedule. That's number 5. Number 4. Start the season fast is number 4. And so let's take a look at the schedule. All right. I think this one is imperative that you start the season fast, because it's going to be like I said, it's not a impossible task. This is not a daunting schedule, but it is a tough schedule. And adversity will hit on this schedule, right? You know what saved us last year when that adversity hit? The fact that we started the season off fast at 7-2. Could you imagine if we would have done the Rivera thing and started the season off, 3-6, and then hit a 3-game skid? Now you're 3-9, your season's done, right? Season's over. Just let's say we start the season off 4-5, not 7-2. Let's say we started off the season 4-5. Then you lose 3 straight, you're 4-8 now. Now you're fighting for your life. But because we started 7-2, we could endure a 3-game skid and still come out of that thing on the other side with plenty of life and the will to fight. That's the difference between starting fast, starting slow. We saw what happened in Cincinnati. They started slow and they never recovered. You start slow in a season, and you put yourself behind the 8 ball, you find yourself digging yourself out of a hole. This was where we were. This was our existence under Rivera. We constantly found ourselves fighting an uphill battle, digging ourselves out of a hole that we created for ourselves by starting the season off slow. We could never get off to a fast start. And I used to always say, for once, I just want to start the season off 7-2. I remember saying that to you guys a million times. And then we started 7-2, and look what it brought us. Well, we need that same type of energy this year. This is not optional. We have to start fast this year because of how the schedule is set up. You get a chance to get your shit off in week 1. Look, this is an improved schedule, and the Giants are a part of that improved schedule. The Giants are an improved team. But don't mistake improved for good, okay? The Giants won, 4 games last year? So if they win 6 this year, guess what the Giants just did? They improved. They're better on paper. They got a better quarterback situation. They're going to win more games. It just can't be at our expense. It can't be against us. You swept them last year. You got to do what the Eagles do to them. You got to do what the Cowboys do to them. You got to sweep their ass. You can't lose to the Giants. Not until the Giants prove that they're a legitimate outfit, and they're not a legitimate outfit yet. You got to sweep them. They're giving us a chance to get our shit off week 1 at the crib. You can't waste that. Week 2, tough one. On the road, quick turnaround. Green Bay, Thursday night. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, that's tough. We built for those type of moments, though. Go get it. Go get it. If you are to drop one, that one is understandable if you are to drop one early. But I'm not in the business of kowtowing or bowing down to nobody. Go get that one on the road. Week 3, Raiders at the crib. I got to have it. I got to have it. I don't know what the pundits are saying. I don't know what their over-under number is. That's Pete Carroll's first year. They got a new running back. They're going to run the football. They're a different program than they were last season. All of that good stuff. It's still the damn Raiders. You got to bust their shit at the crib. We're going to be favored in that game. Probably won't be favored on the road at Green Bay, but we'll be favored big time. We're already favored. Early numbers, 6.5-point favorites against the Giants week 1. We're probably going to be favored again against the Raiders. Not probably. We will be favored in that game. As long as Jaden Daniels is healthy, you'll be favored in that game, right? Take care of business. Falcons on the road. Rematch of the week 17 contest. A lot of fun that game was. They're a dangerous team, but they're a beatable team on the road. They're looking for revenge. They haven't beat us in like 4 or 5 years. It's been a while. They probably think they're due for a dub against us. Can't happen. We got to start this season fast, right? Because shit gets real in week 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10. Shit gets real. So when you go into that stretch against the Chargers in week 5, you need to be already 3-1 at a bare minimum. Hopefully 4-0. Because you ain't coming out of that stretch unscathed. Somebody's going to get you. Whether it's Dallas on the road, whether it's Kansas City on the road on a Monday night, whether it's the Chargers on the road, we're going to try to turn that into a home environment. Bears at the crib, out for revenge. Whatever the case may be, Lions looking for some revenge themselves. You got to take care of business before you get to that stretch. Because once you get to that stretch in week 5, shit gets real. So you either need to be looking at 3-1 or 4-0. Got to start fast this season. Got to start fast. Number 4. Or number 3, excuse me. That was number 4. Number 4 was start the season fast. Number 3. Fourth quarter defense. Fourth quarter defense. The late game defense from the Commanders in particular, right? Because I think if you play the games back in your mind, all fourth quarters were not created equal, and we weren't terrible in just the fourth quarter alone. It was small pockets of the fourth quarter. A lot of times it was the very end of the fourth quarter when you needed that stop the most. But we can open the entire discussion up to the fourth quarter in general, right? Because we weren't good in the fourth quarter defensively. But really, when the game was on the line, 5 minutes or less, that's when our defense was at its worst in the fourth quarter. We would shut teams out for the vast majority of the fourth quarter and then get to the very end when you needed to stop and they couldn't get it. So what I'm going to do here is go through the fourth quarter totals given up by the Commanders this past season in 2024. So in week 1 against Tampa Bay, the Commanders gave up 14 points in the fourth quarter. We scratched and we clawed our way back in that game, right? I think the score was 20. I want to say it was 23-16. I think we had cut it to a one-score game. I think. I don't want to lie to you there. I think that it was 23-13. I think something along those lines. 23-14, something like that. I think it was 23-14. The score was, and then we gave up 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Made it a moot point. Ran out of gas in that game. Week 2 against the Giants, we gave up 6 points in the fourth quarter because they had to go for 2. Remember, they did not have a place kicker. But we all remember that if Malik Neighbors does not drop a 4th down pass, Daniel Jones was walking these boys down the field to go score the game-winning touchdown. We were going to lose that game if Malik Neighbors catches a wide-open 4th down play. He blessed us. And you could argue that might have been the turning point of the season, to be honest. You know, without that drop, you probably lose that game. You drop to 0-2. You don't go to Cincinnati the following week with confidence and win that game, and who knows what becomes of the season, right? Week 3, we gave up 13 points in the fourth quarter to Cincinnati, right? Jaden Daniels did everything in his power the first 3 quarters to put us in a position to not have to struggle. We had 28 points, if I'm not mistaken, through 3 quarters. I think the score at one point was 28-13 after we scored on the opening possession of the second half. There was a 3rd and like 15 that we let T. Higgins catch for like 17, and it kind of changed the whole game. And so despite Jaden taking us down the field, getting a field goal, taking us down the field, getting the touchdown to Terry to put the game out of reach, they still scored a touchdown right after we did that, and we had to recover an onside kick to put the game away. 13 points given up in the fourth quarter against Cincinnati. Week 4 was the only game of the season the Commanders did not give up a fourth quarter touchdown, or any points, rather, excuse me. The only game of the season where they did not give up any points in the fourth quarter. That was against Arizona. Shut the Cardinals out in the final frame, en route to a 42-13 victory, or whatever that number ended up being, right? Week 5 against Cleveland, 7 points given up. In the fourth quarter of a game that was long decided. Jaden Daniels didn't even play in the fourth quarter of that game. Week 6 against the Baltimore Ravens, 7 points given up, or excuse me, 3 points given up. But if you recall, they got the field goal, which pushed the lead back out to 10. We had cut it to 7 after 2 fourth down conversions, one to Noah Brown on a pass interference, the other to Terry McLaurin on a 4th down conversion in the end zone. That was after Terry had a big 3rd down catch as well. So you cut it back to 1 score at 27-20, and then let them go down the field, get a field goal, push it out to 30. And then we go back down the field, get a field goal, make it 30-23, and then the defense promptly gives up a big run to Derrick Henry, another run to Lamar Jackson, and they were back in scoring range, but that was enough to take knees and win the game. So even though they only gave up 3 points, could have been more if it needed to be more, right? Couldn't get stops when we needed them. Week 7, they gave up 7 points to the Carolina Panthers. That was the closest any of us as fans in the last 30 years have come to getting a shutout in the game. Those 7 points that they scored in the fourth quarter of a 40-0 ball game. That was the closest we've come to a shutout. And we let it slip through our fingers. Week 8 against Chicago. Gave up 8 fourth quarter points, including the go-ahead score with less than 20 seconds to go in that ball game. That should have been the final blow, the death blow in that game. Of course, we know what ultimately happened, but the defense let us down once again in that football game in the fourth quarter. Week 9 against the New York Giants. We scored 21 first half points. That game should have been over. Instead, we gave up 12 points in the fourth quarter to the New York Giants, including a wide open seam ball to the tight end, which we, for whatever reason, just disregarded tight ends over the seam, up the seam over the middle of the football field last year for whatever reason, right? Whether it's Luke Schoonmaker or the rookie Penn State tight end the Giants had last year, guys were running wide open up our seam last season. Theo Johnson, that's his damn name, scored a touchdown late to make that game way closer than it needed to be. Should have blew the Giants out of that game, and we couldn't put them away because our defense couldn't get stops. 12 damn points given up to the Giants in week 9 in the fourth quarter. Jaden had to put on his cape when he thought his day was done. Like he had done enough. This game should have been over. He had to put his cape on again and drive us all the way inside the 5 to take knees to put the game away. Week 10 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. 7 points given up. Boy, were those 7 points costly. That was a 27-21 ball game. The Steelers were being shut out of the fourth quarter at that time. We were up 27-21 heading into the fourth quarter. We scored no points in the fourth quarter, but if the Steelers didn't score any points in the fourth quarter, we would have won the game. Benjamin St-Juste comes in and lets Mike Williams, who is playing his first game as a Pittsburgh Steeler, get behind him for a touchdown, the go-ahead score. We lose 28-27. All hell breaks loose in the fourth quarter each of the next 2 weeks. Eagles on a Thursday night. We're playing exceptional football. The defense is humming. The offense is struggling, but the defense is giving us a shot reminiscent of the Bears game 3 weeks prior. This defense is kicking ass and taking names. They probably concussed Jalen Hurts in the first half, but he's still in the game. But he ain't doing shit. For 3 quarters, we got these bastards right where we want them. It's 10-6. And then they scored 20 points in the fourth quarter. 20 points. All hell breaks loose. The floodgates open. Saquon Barkley goes to town. We start turning the ball over. The rest is history, right? The rest is history. 20 points given up in the fourth quarter versus the Eagles, the first game on Thursday night. The following week, it was even worse. 24 points given up against Dallas in the fourth quarter. Now, mind you, 14 of those points were given up via special teams. The Turpin kickoff return for a touchdown, and then the onside kick recovery run back for a touchdown. However, still, John Bates fumbles, and that turns into a Luke Schoonmaker touchdown up the seam. As I just mentioned, we had issues with tight ends running up the seam. And that felt like the death nail in that game. Jaden takes us down the field, gets us a touchdown. We get the 2-point conversion. We're right back in the game. And then we give up the kick return to Turpin. Feels like it's over again. Jaden does his magic again and gives us a chance to goes down, gets a field goal, right? The Cowboys force us to use all of our timeouts. They punt the ball. They pin us at our own 14. And then he hits Terry for the 86-yard touchdown. Should have tied the game up. I would have gone for 2. Should have tied the game up, though, at worst. Worst case scenario, we missed the extra point. You know how all that shit goes. 24 points given up in the fourth quarter against the Dallas Cowboys. Week 13 against the Tennessee Titans, we gave up 6 points in the final frame. That game was pretty much decided by then. I think that ended up being, what, 40? I think we just missed. I think we hit 40 that game. If we didn't, we just missed 40. Feel like that was a 40 piece. Had to be. I think we won at 50. That had to be 42-19, I think 45-19, something like that. Week 15, come off the bye against the Saints, dominate the first half. Jake Hayner stinks. You shut him out in the first half. And then they put in Spencer Rattler, and we lose our minds. And all of a sudden, we don't know how to play defense. We're giving up trick plays. They scored 12 points in the fourth quarter and almost come back and beat us, which would have been a debilitating loss at the time. But we hung on and won 20-19. But 12 points given up in the final frame, including a gut-wrenching drive, final drive, orchestrated by Spencer Rattler. Yeah, the clock officials screwed us in that game. Shouldn't even come to that. You're letting Spencer Rattler come in the game and walk you up and down the field. It's ridiculous. Week 16, Falcons, 6 points. Or excuse me, Eagles, week 16, 6 points in the final frame. Up 27-13 in the fourth quarter, or going into the fourth quarter. They only scored 6 points. And we ultimately come back and win that game 36-33. Week 17, Falcons. 7 points. A devastating 7 points, I may add, in that game. This is a 24-17 ball game. They had not scored a single point in the second half after, destroying us in the first half, 17-7. They don't score a single point in the second half until a final drive, second to last drive, in which the ball is snapped over Michael Penix's head on second down from probably the 9-yard line or so. He has to go all the way back to the Commanders' 30-yard line to recover the football. And we still let him throw like a 14 to 17-yard pass on 3rd and goal to get him to the 13-yard line. And then on 4th and goal, we give up a touchdown pass to Kyle Pitts to tie the game at 24. And then after that, they get the ball back because Olamide Zaccheaus dropped the football on a 3rd down. They drive it down the field, and if their coach, Raheem Morris, had any intellect when it comes to clock management and doesn't bungle the clock, they get closer than a 56-yard field goal, and they probably beat us. So the defense was atrocious in the final moments of that game against Atlanta, despite only giving up 7 points. Week 18 against Dallas, they gave up 10 points in the fourth quarter. But again, while we wanted to beat Dallas, we had already punched our ticket to the postseason. And had we lost that game, which would not have been good to get swept by the Cowboys, do you know how annoying they would have been this offseason had they swept us in their current state last year? Yeah, that would have been a miserable existence. But thank God for Marcus Mariota and Terry McLaurin and the team for getting it done. But to give up 10 points in that situation, pretty nasty work. Pretty nasty work. Excuse me. Wild card game against the Bucs. Commanders gave up 3 points in the fourth quarter. Remember, it was a 17-13 game heading into the fourth. Mayfield fumbles early in the fourth quarter. We recover, go for it again on 4th down because we had just failed on 4th down, which is what led to the fumble by Mayfield. And recover that. Score on a 4th down again. This time, or go for it again on 4th down. This time we score, take a 20-17 lead, give it up right towards the end of the game with probably 5-6 minutes to go, give up a field goal and tie the game up at 20. And then Jaden Daniels puts on a masterclass on taking a team down the field and putting them into walk-off field goal range, because none of us wanted to see the defense back on the field against Baker Mayfield in that offense, right? We had already seen that movie right before halftime, and we saw how that ended. So we didn't need to see it at the end of the game, right? Divisional round gave up 3 points in the fourth quarter to the Lions. It's one of the better fourth quarter performances by this defense, but really the offense kept the defense off the field in the fourth quarter versus the Lions, right? That's really what happened. And then the NFC Championship game, once again, total explosion by the Philadelphia Eagles, and another just falling apart by the Commanders. We had climbed back into that game. It was 34-23. I mean, similar circumstances to the Week 16 come from behind victory. That was the score heading into the fourth quarter. We had them right where we wanted them, and we were on the move, and then Eckler fumbles. And then just like the first game against the Eagles at the Link, we just fell the hell apart in the fourth quarter after a turnover, right? We couldn't, the dam broke. 21 points given up in the fourth quarter. We scored none, by the way. We scored none. They scored 21. That's how the game got out of control. So when it's all said and done, our fourth quarter defense was statistically the third worst in the NFL from a points per game or points per fourth quarter given up in the NFL. The Commanders were 30th in the NFL in points per fourth quarter given up, at 9.5 points in the fourth quarter given up per game. Only the Jags and the 49ers were worse at 9.7 points per game in the fourth quarter given up. That has to change. That has to change. If you want to replicate last season, if you want to be better than last season, you can't be abysmal in what they call winning time moments defensively. We were clutch in winning time moments offensively, which is what saved us last year, because we were so bad in winning time moments defensively. You do that again this year, the likelihood is you won't be so lucky. You won't be so lucky, because instead of it being Spencer Rattler trying to orchestrate a come from behind victory, instead of it being Michael Penix Jr. trying to orchestrate a come from behind victory, it's Patrick Mahomes that's trying to orchestrate that come from behind victory. It's Justin Herbert who's trying to orchestrate that come from behind victory. It's Jordan Love that's trying to orchestrate that come from behind victory. And you may not be as lucky in those situations and in those circumstances. That's number 3. And just as a side note, and we're so much better, and this is common sense, right? I'm not telling you something that you don't already know, but when we score 20 or more points in the first half, we are undefeated, or we were undefeated last year. We scored 20 or more points in the first half 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times last season, including the postseason. 6 times, 6-0 in those games, right? We did it in week 3 against Cincinnati, scored 21 points in the first half. We did it in week 5 against Cleveland. We scored, I think we had 24, either 24 or 20 at halftime in that game in the first half. We did it week 7 against Carolina. I think we had 24 to 27 points in the first half against Carolina. I mean, that thing was over at halftime. We did it in week 13 or in week 9, excuse me, against the Giants. We had 21 points. I think we had 21 points in the first half of that game. We did it in week 13 against the Titans. We had 21 points in the first quarter. We had 28 points in the first half of that game. And then we did in the divisional round against the Lions. I believe we had 27 points. I think the score was, or I think we had 31 points, excuse me. I think the score was 31-21 at the half of that game. So, won all 6 of those games. All I'm trying to illustrate is that when we apply pressure early and we put up points early, we're a very dangerous team. We're a very dangerous team. Almost unbeatable when we play that brand of football. When we're scoring, when we're dynamic in the first half, when we get a team down and we pile up the points early, even if it's a close game, you apply that type of pressure and show a team that, hey, if you're willing to get into a track meet with us, you're going to get smoked. We're at our best. Now, you want to play defense. That's how we got to blowouts in a lot of those games, right? Is we kept scoring and the other team didn't. But in the case of the Detroit Lions, they kept scoring, but we just didn't stop. And eventually we got turnovers in that game and they couldn't keep up. In the week 3 game against Cincinnati, they started scoring. They started off the scoring. We kept scoring. They stopped scoring. We kept scoring. Then we stopped scoring. They started scoring again, and then we started scoring again and finished them off. But it was a shootout. We're capable in those situations. All right, so that was number 3. Our fourth quarter defense has to be better. Number 2, run defense. Run defense. So, let's see. Okay, so I don't have a graphic for this, so we'll come back. So, our run defense, as you know, was putrid last year. I don't have to explain that to you. You don't need me to show you a bunch of numbers. We went through that every week last season when we would get ready for our opponents. I would go through all of the statistical data leading up to the game for both teams, where that team ranked in the league, per game, etc. Third down conversion rates, points per game, offensive yards, pass defense, rush defense, all of that. And every week we would just say, run defense, just don't kill us. We know you stink. We know you're one of the worst in the league. Just don't kill us in this game. We had the 31st rush defense in the league last season. 31st. So second to last. The only team in the league worse than us in yards per game given up was Carolina. We gave up 143.4 yards a game on the ground. We were 31st in the league in yards per carry given up at 5 a pop. So every time a team handed the ball off, on average, they gained half a first down against us. The only team that was worse, you guessed it, Carolina. So we were awful against the run last year. And it really didn't matter who you were. The only thing that would stop you from probably going over 100 yards is if you turned it over or our offense kept your offense off the field, right? I remember week 1, the Bucs started to get their shit off at the end of that game. We wore down defensively, but we couldn't stop them in the fourth quarter of that game running the football. It was bad, right? It was real bad. Second week, I mean, Devin Singletary is just kicking our ass, man. It was bad early on. The only thing that stopped them was he fumbled, and then the offense didn't punt. Daniel Jones was having himself a day. It was, you know what? I'm glad Daniel Jones is gone. Because for whatever reason, we just couldn't stop Daniel Jones. I don't know what he played some of his best football against us. I'm actually glad the man is out of the division. Everybody else probably like, no. Keep him around. I was like, no, get his ass out of here. I'd rather deal with Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson than Daniel Jones at this point. I can't explain the shit. Just continuing to go through the running backs, last year, we didn't have any issues in week 3 because Cincinnati wasn't a great rush offense team. But I think Chase had a solid game against us. Week 4, despite destroying them, James Conner had over 100 yards rushing in that game, right? Week 5, the Browns were just abysmal offensively, so their run game wasn't a factor. Week 6, Derrick Henry had over 100 yards rushing on us. Week 7, the Panthers, we took them out of the game to be able to run early, so that was what saved us there. Because Chuba Hubbard probably would have got us, but they didn't have a chance to really establish the run in that game. Week 8, we know that DeAndre Swift went off, had the big run up the left sideline, went over 100 yards in that game, gave them life when they were dead. We couldn't stop him in late third, all the way through the fourth quarter. We couldn't stop DeAndre Swift. We couldn't stop him. That's why I'm glad they did the stupid shit trying to give it to the fullback, which was an offensive lineman, and he fumbled. Because if they'd just given it to DeAndre Swift, he'd have walked in the end zone. Like, what are you doing? Right? But that's the Bears that's the Bears being the Bears, right? But Swift went over 100 yards in that game. Week 9. Remember week 9 against the Giants, the second game? Remember the first half of that game? Oh my God, Tyrone Tracy was killing us. He was getting like 5 and 6 a pop. It was the worst. The only thing that was saving us was the Giants just stink. So even though he would get 6, and then he would get 5, and then he would get 7, and then he would get 4, and then he would get 5, and then he would get 4, and then he would get 3, and then he would get 4, the drive would somehow stall out. Would they do something stupid, have a penalty, whatever? But man, he was killing us. I remember thinking to myself at halftime, like, this shit is ridiculous. It was utterly ridiculous. Week 10, the Steelers really didn't hurt us on the ground, but Jaylen Warren started to get his shit off in the third and fourth quarter, like really the fourth quarter. He started to get his shit off. He had to fumble. That's what saved us, right? He fumbled in the red zone. Otherwise, he was kicking our ass. He just didn't get enough carries. The next week, obviously, Saquon held him down for 3 quarters, and then he erupted in the fourth quarter. He went over 100. Week 12, man, to that point, the Cowboys running back, man, what was his name? Rico Dowdle. I don't think he had a 100-yard performance in his career. And he didn't get 100 against us, but he came damn close. He had like 80-something yards. It was like one of his highest rush totals of his career. And he only had like 18 carries. He's kicking our ass. Now, what helped us in that game? He fumbled the damn ball, right? We took the ball from his ass on the play. That's what saved us. He probably would have had 100 yards on us. Week 13, we totally took Tennessee out the game in the first quarter with all the turnovers we forced. So they couldn't run the football. Week 15, we really didn't have too many issues stopping the run until the fourth quarter. Then all of a sudden, we didn't know how to stop the run, right? Now they start gashing us. Week 16, Obviously, Saquon had 100 yards in the first quarter. I mean, what are we talking about, right? Now, we shut him down in the second half of that game, but the first half of that game, boy, want to talk about ugly? Week 17, man, that first half, Bijan Robinson was killing us. He was the catalyst to that 17-7 deficit at half. We had no answer for him. I don't know if we got better at stopping the run or if they went away from the run in the second half. I don't really know, but he was killing us in the first half of that game. I don't think he ended up with 100 yards, but I know for a fact he had like 90-something yards, like 93 yards on like 17 carries. He was killing us. And then week 18, no, who cares, right? Who cares? Week 18. The playoff game, the wild card game against the Bucks, Bucky Brooks was killing us. He was killing us. I don't think he ended up with 100, but again, much like Bijan, I think he ended up with 90-something on, a few carries. Like, if they'd have given it to him 20-something times, he'd had well over 100 yards, right? He was killing us. We couldn't stop that. Again, just get to the perimeter on us. Outside zone, tosses, all that shit worked against us last year. They were killing us in the second half. On the ground, it wasn't amounting to points being scored, which we are very fortunate. Jameer Gibbs was a one-man wrecking crew. Two men. Him and Amon-Ra St. Brown were killing us in that game. They were killing us. And then you could sprinkle in a little bit of Laporta, and then you had the reverse with your boy Williams, but he threw us an interception, so that cancels and negates that. But we couldn't stop Jameer Gibbs. So again, I don't need to tell you about the run defense. I just did, though. It was awful. And like Dorrance Armstrong, I said Bucky Brooks. That's not the wrong sport. He played football. That's not the right Bucky. Bucky Irving. Sorry. Bucky Irving, right? Bucky Brooks played football too for the Green Bay Packers and the Buffalo Bills. But wrong Bucky. Bucky Irving. Killed us. So you can't have the type of run defense we had last year and expect to win anything of substance. The fact that we made it to where we did based off of our run defense is amazing. It's utterly amazing because you can't win consistently in this league having an inability to stop the run. You just can't. So, the last thing that we got to do better, we got to improve on. The last thing. And so I did have a graphic. So, no, this is not it. I did not have a graphic. I do not have a graphic. Yeah. I think these two graphics are one and the same. Yes, they are. So, all right. So, what I'm showing you now, the number one thing that we have to improve is we got to force more turnovers. Okay. We've had this conversation before. So this is not something new. This is not a new conversation by any stretch of the imagination. And this is widely known that we have to be better in the creating turnovers category, takeaways. What you're seeing in front of you right now is a list of the teams with the fewest turnovers, right? Giveaways, okay? Not forcing them, but giving them away to the opponent. We were one of the best in the league at protecting the football. Teams that protect the football win a lot of football games, okay? So as you can see, this is a list of all the teams last season with less than 20 turnovers, okay? Less than 20 turnovers. Now, what you're not seeing here is how many turnovers those teams had, right? We're going to take a look at that here in a second. And you can actually do the math if you wanted to. The numbers are here in front of you. Lost, those are fumbles. Interceptions, those are interceptions. You can just do the math there, and you can see what was done. Or actually, I take that back. These are the turnovers, right? We had 7 lost fumbles and 9 interceptions. Jalen Daniels threw 9 interceptions. So that gives you the 16. My bad. So these are the best of the best at protecting the football. Let's just count up the success of the teams who take care of the football. Let's see how many of these teams that turned it over less than 20 times made the playoffs. Bills, playoff team. All right. Keep in mind, only 14 teams make the playoffs. You're staring at 15 teams right now. All right. Bills made the playoffs. Chargers made the playoffs. Ravens made the playoffs. Chiefs made the playoffs. Rams made the playoffs. Lions made the playoffs. Eagles made the playoffs. Commanders made the playoffs. So the top 8 teams on this list all made the postseason. Now, the Bears obviously did not make the playoffs, but the Steelers made the postseason. The Packers made the postseason. The Broncos made the postseason. The Texans made the postseason. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 out of the 14 teams in the postseason turned it over less than 20 times last season. You take care of the football, and the football gods will take care of you. You give yourself a tremendous chance to win games if you take care of the football. Now, if you want to then take advantage of your ability to take care of the football, the best way to do that is to force and create turnovers. Create this massive gap in the turnover differential plus minus category. That's what the best of the best do, right? So now let's take a look at that. So here are your best plus minus turnover differential statistics from 2024. I just told you that the Bills only had 8 turnovers. They had the fewest amount in the league last season. Well, they forced 32 turnovers, 16 interceptions, 16 fumbles. 32 total turnovers forced, only 8 given away, plus 24. You want to know why they were one of the best teams in the league, one of the best teams in the AFC, why they were, Chris Jones in the camera angle way away from being in the Super Bowl? Because they turned people over and they didn't turn it over themselves. That's why Josh Allen won league MVP, because for the first time in his career, he didn't turn the ball over, and it showed. They didn't have top tier talent around Josh Allen on offense. It was him, a bunch of tight ends, James Cook. Good luck, go get it done. And he did, because he took care of the ball. The defense created turnovers, and they turned those turnovers into points. Pittsburgh Steelers. You want to know why the Steelers are routinely in the postseason, why Mike Tomlin never has losing seasons? They're never good talent-wise offensively. Rarely are they, right? Haven't had a quarterback since Ben Roethlisberger. When did he retire? I don't know. It's been a while, though, right? But this is what they do. This is how they stay afloat. Turn it over 17 times. But what did they do? They created the most turnovers in the league last season. 33 of them. That's how you win games, right? You create turnovers. That's how you win games you have no business winning. 17 interceptions, 16 fumbles forced, 33 total, a differential of 16 in the plus category. Packers, 19 turnovers. So they turn it over quite a bit, 19 times. We know Jordan Love can be a turnover machine sometimes. We know Josh Jacobs will put the football on the carpet from time to time, right? But you can offset that If you create 31 turnovers, you can offset that. If you create 31 turnovers and have a plus of 12. Chargers, they don't turn it over. That's one thing Jim Harbaugh's teams aren't going to do. They ain't going to turn it over. He's going to take care of that football like a newborn baby. 9 total turnovers. They created 21 of them, which isn't a lot. But when you're taking care of it at that clip, only turning it over 9 times, creates a 12 in the plus category. That's how you make the playoffs, right? The Chargers weren't great offensively. They barely scored points in plenty of games. But you know what they did do? They didn't turn it over. They forced turnovers. And that's how they won games. That's how they got into the playoffs. Now, it showed when they got to the playoffs. They still couldn't score. And now the Texans weren't turning it over. And then they had an out-of-body experience, and Justin Herbert turned the shit over like 4 times, and voila, you're going home. But that's how they got there, right? And I could keep doing this. The gist of it, you get the gist of what I'm doing. We're all the way at the bottom here. So this list that you see in front of you contains every single team that was in the plus category in plus minus, right? Every other team that finished under the Commanders were in the red, in the minus category. Let's count up the teams in the plus category that made the postseason. Bills made the postseason. That's 1. Steelers made the postseason. That's 2. Packers made the postseason. That's 3. Chargers made the postseason. That's 4. Vikings made the postseason. That's 5. Eagles made the postseason. 6. Texans, 7. Lions, 8. Ravens, 9. Broncos, 10. Chiefs, 11. Rams, 12. Commanders, 13. So out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Out of 15 teams that finished in the plus side of the plus minus category, out of the 15 teams, 13 out of the 14 playoff teams exist from this list. 13 out of the 14 teams that made the postseason are here. The only team that is not here, that finished with a minus in the plus minus category, is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's the only team that's not here that made the playoffs. Translation, you can't make the playoffs, not consistently in this league, by turning it over more than you take it away. And luckily enough for us, our rookie quarterback only turned it over 9 times. God forbid he had fumbled 5 or 6 times and lost them. We probably don't make the playoffs because you got other guys fumbling the damn football away. We had 7 fumbles last year. None of them lost by our quarterback, by the way. None of them. We only took it away 17 times last season. 7 interceptions. Nobody else in this category that we're looking at has single digits in the interception category. Just us. Nobody else. Everybody else has double-digit interceptions. We have 7. We barely have double-digit fumble recoveries. We have 10 of those. That got us to 17 total takeaways. We gave it away 16 times. We barely finished in the plus side of this category. This is the number one thing that we can improve to become an even better team in 2025. This right here. Because even if the run defense isn't significantly better, even if the defense as a whole is worse than it was last season, I always tell you, turnovers are the great equalizer. Cincinnati was ass on defense. Absolutely putrid. They stunk to high heaven on defense, right? They missed the postseason by 1 game. Why? Because they created 25 turnovers. That's why. That's why. Joe Burrow was exceptional on offense, and they created turnovers on defense. Their defense was ass. But they created turnovers. That's what gave them a chance in football games. You don't have to be great defensively if you're creating turnovers. you don't create turnovers, then you have to be excellent everywhere else. That's what we had to do last year. We had to be excellent on special teams. We had to be excellent on offense because defensively, we were just okay and we didn't create turnovers. There was so few. Our margin of error was so dental floss thin because we didn't create turnovers. So you had to go on this 17 play, 8-minute drive to eat up the clock. Because if you didn't, your defense was going to get gashed because they're not creating any turnovers. They're not creating short fields for you. Every game where we created short fields for our offense, and there were very few. We didn't do it a lot. But if you look at the games when the defense said, hey, we're going to spot you a few turnovers today. You do whatever, you do with it whatever you like. You can do whatever you like. Yeah. Here you go. We went off, right? Think about those games when we created turnovers. So we created turnovers in the Cleveland game. What happened? Went off on those boys, right? Created turnovers in the Carolina game. What happened? Went off on those boys. Created turnovers in the Tennessee game. What happened? Went off on those boys. Created turnovers in the Detroit game. What happened? Went off on those boys. It just didn't happen enough. That was the problem. It was too few games where the defense said, hey, don't worry about it. We're going to spot you a couple turnovers. Let you get your shit off. We didn't do it enough. The only game the defense spotted us turnovers and we didn't do anything with it was the Steelers game. And we had our opportunities in that game. We all remember that game. If you got a healthy Jaden Daniels in that game, we put 40 on those boys. Easy. Effortlessly. So, to me, the number one thing that this team can do in 2025 to increase its chances of maximizing its season is to create more takeaways. Take the ball away. All right, let's get to the comment section, and then we'll get out of here. Darnell Kelly, thank you for being a member for 45 months. Salute to you, DK, who writes, don't be mad. It's called saving face. Our resume doesn't say hire me. Pundits weren't checking for us when we were trashed for 20 years. Sit back and laugh at them. We always alive with JD5. We lit. Hashtag Super Bowl. You're not wrong. And that's why I said, I'm not mad. I'm just annoyed. DK, that's all. I'm just annoyed. I'm not mad. Just annoyed. Right? But I get it. I get it. I understand where a lot of these people are coming from. But what I want to force people to do is pick a side. You either on that side or you with us. You can't have it both ways. Pick a side. We know where Mike Florio is. I can respect that. You don't like us. You can't stand us. You on that side. Cool. I know where you stand. Adam Rank can't stand us. I know where you at. That's what I like. Christopher McLaughlin. Been a member for 8 months. Really appreciate you, my guy, C-Mac. Right? Hey, Lou. What's up, Chris? Hope all is well with you and the family. Likewise. 2025 goals for the team. 1, have at least a plus 10 turnover differential. That'd be great. If we do that, I just can't imagine this team not being, I mean, they were already among the best in the league at scoring the football. You give us plus 10 in the turnover differential category, and we're going to either be at the top or damn near at the top of the list in points per game. 2, allow only average 100 yards a game on rush defense. I that's a lofty goal. That number probably, I would be comfortable with that number being more like 109 yards or something like that a game. Only less than 100 yards or right around 100 yards is reserved for the elite units in the league, like elite, like Tampa Bay, Philadelphia, those types teams. That ain't us. I don't think that's going to be us. So I take like a 109.6 yards a game. That'll put you top 15 in the league, right? That'll put you right up in that. That's all we need to be. Just don't be the worst or one of the worst, right? Then he says 3, average 30 points per game on offense. Thoughts? Very doable. If your number 1 comes to fruition, then your number 3 also can come to fruition. Those two, I think, they go hand in hand. If 1 happens, 3 is going to happen. 2, it is nice, and I would love to see them do that. I just don't think you're going to get that kind of you're not going to get that kind of improvement over 1 year with what we just did. I think you're going to get an improvement, but I don't think you're going to get that kind of improvement. You just never know, though. We'll see. We'll see what we're capable of. JD Sports Talk. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. JD Sports Talk writes, what area of the team is your biggest concern that could possibly take a step back or remain suspect? 2, I have a feeling Gallup wins a role. The biggest concern for me right now is what I just said. Right. My number 1 concern is, can we create turnovers? Because I don't trust this team to do that yet. And the reason why it's a concern is because we didn't turn it over a lot last year. I've already told you, I think Jaden Daniels is going to turn it over more this season. The odds state that he's probably going to turn it over more in year 2 than he did year 1. The man didn't have a lost fumble in his rookie season. I can't imagine that being replicated in his second year. Even if he only loses 1, that's still more than none. He threw 9 interceptions last year. Maybe that number is reduced, right? There's a chance that he could throw less, but my guess is he probably throws somewhere from 8 to 11 interceptions. So he could throw less, right? Interceptions than he did a season ago. But he could fumble 4 times, lose 4 fumbles. And that would be more total turnovers than he had a year ago as a rookie. And guys are still going to fumble the football that isn't named Jaden Daniels. And so the 16 turnovers that we had last year, giveaways, rather, the 16 giveaways that we had, I think that number is going to increase to 19 or 20, maybe 21. And if you're not producing turnovers to offset those games that we won, we played a lot of 1-score games. We're going to play a lot more 1-score games. The difference between winning and losing those games is you didn't turn the ball over. The wild card game is a great example. We didn't turn it over. The Bucs had 1 mistake. That's all it took to turn that game on its head. Without that fumble, we probably don't beat them. Who's to say what would have happened, right? They could have gone 3 and out on that possession. They could have punted the ball. We could have gotten great field position and still went down and scored the touchdown, took the lead, and the game could have still played out the way that it did, and we won with a walk-off field goal. But the likelihood with the defense that we have, and we know, the likelihood is they were gonna get multiple first downs. Even if they had to punt, they would have flipped the field position. It would have put us in a tough spot. Their defense was playing well most of the night, and who knows what would have happened. But we will never know because they did turn it over, and that was one of the biggest differences in that game. And that's what saved us last year. We didn't turn it over in a bunch of games. And so we were allowed to play mistake-free football, and that led to us winning a number of close games. Right? Well, you start turning it over, and that could be the difference between you winning and losing some of these close games. So, again, the Bears game, if they don't fumble that ball trying to hand it to a damn offensive lineman on a fullback dive, we probably lose that game. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that you turn it over one time in a game, that can prove devastating. You got to create turnovers so it gives you a wider margin of error. You create turnovers. You can turn it over once. If you create 3 turnovers, guess what? You're probably still going to win the game. You're probably going to win it by a lot more than if you would have created no turnovers but didn't turn it over. Right? You create 3 turnovers or you create 2 turnovers and don't turn it over or turn it over once, you still have a better shot at winning that game than if neither team turned the ball over. So my biggest concern is, can we generate turnovers? Because we haven't proved that we can. Small, like in small little spurts, we've turned over teams, but we haven't proven that we can take the football away. Not consistently. And as we've seen, you know, every now and again, you're going to have one of those stinkers like we had against Philadelphia twice. All 3 of the games against Philadelphia were disastrous from a turnover standpoint. We had 16 turnovers last year, and 10 of them came against Philadelphia in 3 games. Well, I'm not sure that the 16 is, I think that's a regular season number. Because we had, 4 or 5 in the championship game? I mean, that's separate. So we had 16 turnovers, and we turned it over the first Eagles game. Jaden, he threw an interception, and did he throw 2 interceptions or 1? He threw 1 interception. And then we had the turnover on downs, which that's not a turnover, but it feels like one, on 4th down. And then I felt like we had another turnover in there, but maybe we didn't. And then the second game, obviously, oh my God. We had Jaden threw an interception, and we had 4 fumbles. B-Rob fumbled twice. Diami fumbled. And Jaden had 2 interceptions in that game. He had, I think, 1 before halftime and then the 1 at the end of the game. So, yeah, 5 in that game, 1 or 2 in the first game. Almost half of our turnovers came against the Eagles. And so you're going to have games where shit just doesn't go well. Can you offset that by creating turnovers? That's the key. You said you have a feeling Gallup wins a role on the team. I don't necessarily doubt that. I've already said that I feel like he has the leg up. He's just got to stay healthy. I already said I feel like he's got the leg up on the competition, KJ Osborne and all those other guys, if he's healthy, because of his relationship with DQ and his track record in the league as a proven commodity when healthy. So we'll see what Gallup is able to do. He should be healthy by the time training camp rolls around. So we'll see what he's able to do. TJ Ryder, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy TJ writes, yo, Double E, who's the player in the schedule photo? I don't think it's a player. I just think it's like a figure. Like, I don't really think it's an actual player. If it is, it looked like Mike Sainristil. That would be my guess. If that's a real player, it looked like Mike Sainristil. That's who it looked like to me. But again, this looked like Mike Sainristil probably on his rookie media day when they take the pictures. That's probably him, because you look crispy on media day. Got your shield on, got your sleeves on, because I don't think any of our offensive players look like that. And obviously, this picture was taken before media day 2025. They just had that literally a week ago or so. So this had to be from last year's media day. So I think it is a real player. I take that back. It looked like Mike Sainristil. That's who it looked like to me. If I had to guess, I could be wrong about that. Don't quote me on that. That's my guess. Just Andre, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Just Andre writes, there's film for JD5, but not for Knicks and Caleb. Well, see, this is the difference. They're not saying that there's no film on them. There's just so much more growth for them, right? They didn't have the season Jaden had, right? Caleb didn't turn it over, but he took a hell of a amount of sacks, and they didn't win football games. And so there's a ton of growth for Caleb. Bo Nix was solid last year. He wasn't great. He had his moments, but he left a lot to be desired. And so there's a lot of growth for him. Jaden Daniels just turned in one of the greatest rookie seasons we've ever seen, irregardless of position, in NFL history. So there's not a lot of room for growth. There is, but there isn't, if that makes sense. So it seems like they're piling on Jaden when they say that, but they're not. They're just, it's the truth. Like Jaden just did, he was one win away from doing something no other quarterback had ever done in NFL history. Ever. And that's take your team to the Super Bowl as a rookie quarterback. So, yeah, I mean, I understand where they were coming from. But just because this perception of, oh, well, teams, defensive coordinators now have film, doesn't mean Jaden can't grow and get better, and doesn't mean that Cliff can't continue to grow as a play caller and you know, feed Jaden more of the playbook now that they're in year 2 and they're more comfortable. So, yes, it's just crazy. All right. D for the win. Thank you for being a member for 13 months. Really appreciate you. Who writes, Lou, they got fat, we starved, it's our turn. Yeah. It's our turn, man. It's our year. Our year. We still starving. We ain't ate. Last year was the first time we ate in over 30 years. You think we full off of that? We ain't ate in over 30 years. And you think 1 year of feasting is enough to fill up our tummies? Nah, my shit's still growling. Your shit's still growling. We still collectively hungry and starving over here. This ain't my mom talking about going to sleep hungry and waking up full. Nah, we starving over here. And we be damned if we ain't gonna eat. Just Andre, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, some of those games they lost was due to bad cornerbacks. Watching some of the games, B-Rob ain't it. He's never a BYOB. No, he's not a BYOB, right? Can't wait for JCM to take his job. Like I said, I'm a Brian Robinson stan. I think he's a quality running back. I think Bill is going to be a great compliment along with Eck. I think it's going to be a really good running back room, and I think they're going to play well off of one another. Yeah, the cornerbacks sucked last year. That was a huge part of our struggles, right? When you look at some of the games we lost, the Steelers game, the Bears, well, we should have lost the Bears game. We didn't, but that was bad cornerback play that got us on a 4th down that wasn't catchable. Pass interference. You know, Juice getting burnt by Mike Williams in the Steelers game. Juice getting beat like he stole something and had a PI also that I thought was bogus, but nonetheless, getting beat like he stole something in the Ravens game. And we could go on and on and on. I mean, he gave up the big ball before half to the Cowboys to an unknown wide receiver we never heard of. that led to a field goal being scored, right? In a game that was low scoring and every point mattered, right? I mean, that's the difference between the Terry touchdown at the end being for the lead instead of, us needing an extra point to tie the game. So, yeah, look, the cornerback play was awful last year. They tried to cost us the game against the Eagles the second game around. But ultimately, the defense as a whole just wasn't very good in the fourth quarter. So they can be better. We expect them to be better this year. And I'm looking forward to them being better this year. As far as B-Rob is concerned, I mean, he's got to show and prove this year. This is it for him. I've already said that no matter what he does, it doesn't feel like he can get a contract here. But that's not true, right? He goes out and he absolutely kills it this year. He'll at a bare minimum start a conversation. One does not exist right now. This is it for him, as far as we're concerned. And probably as far as they're concerned. This is it for him. But he goes out here, he kills it in 2025. Who knows, right? Who knows? He could be back. But anyway, I digress. That's the last super chat. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this installment of the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys on Friday. Tomorrow is Juneteenth. Matter of fact, today, if you're on the East Coast, is Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth to all of you out there. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the festivities. And we will reconvene on Friday here on the Louie T Network. I don't think I'm going to have any content for you tomorrow. I may. You never know. But the Commander Kings are supposed to ride tomorrow night. So do be on the lookout for that. But as far as content on this channel, you may not get any, just to be honest with you. But again, enjoy the day. We'll be back on Friday, and we'll have plenty of to talk about then. Until then, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. You guys have a great rest of your evening, and I'll see you next time. Peace.